I joined a group of 5e players that have brought in other 5e players. We have a good group of about 8 to 10 people who all get along and can play well together in different campaigns. The problem is streaming, at least for me. They all watch Critical Role and that's fine because I listen to other live play podcasts. So, the group decides they want to start streaming, and I have been part of other streaming and podcast ventures before to know this can end badly, and I don't want to lose this stable group of people. I actually considered streaming again, but not after what happened next. How they want it to work is a group of DMs meet and have players on to play in their games, but mostly the stream and content creation are mainly the DMs. We all wanted to help and we were told we were part of it all. The problem was, secretive meetings were being had. I spoke up and people apologized saying we need to work on communicating better. Well, long story short, I was shadow banned, essentially. The project disappeared from my Discord only to randomly show back up. Now, things exist different. People act weird when they talk to me. I'm so upset because I wanted to be a part of something with friends, but I now feel that I'm not wanted. The funny part is most of them joined one of my games that I'm DMing. All they talk about is how other games in their network are going, how they are getting so many followers, less than 100 Twitter hits, and how they're all getting close as a group. It feels like a guy punch every time I hear it, not only that they aren't putting in the same effort on the other games. I put my heart and soul into backstory, I make videos of events that transpire in my character's past, I make elaborate voices, etc. They just show up to hang around each other at this point, at least that's how it feels. Honestly, I just want a creative release from the world, that's why I started playing. I feel like I'm losing a close group of friends to a business venture. If they do get popular, who's to say they don't just ghost me? How can I even trust that they will put good effort in my game? I'm sad, I'm angry, but more than anything I'm confused. I just want to know what I did to make everyone standoffish. So this is gonna cover my friend T again and how he is a bastard, still friends because he is different outside D&D. Basically he rolled a nat 1 causing him to get jumped. One thing leads to another and he has a times 6 attack going towards him that gonna kill him, but I notice I have enough HP to tank it. So I jumped in the way as my character thought of him as a comrade. This made me barely live with HP. It just so happens bounty hunters who were after me appear at that very moment, killing that people attacking T. My OC stands up half awake and says, "Crap, we are outnumbered but we can win if we work together." You wanna know what this fucker T said? "I have no reason to get involved, like I did not just save your life." So this bounty hunter jumps at me stealing my sword, bad roll, and I am forced to hand fight these guys while they are fully armed. I had to do some use the trees to hide tactics as my guy could not win in a fight. I escape losing my sword and my comrade as my OC now hated TSOC with a burning passion. Playing World of Darkness. The party are WW2 men in black. They investigate supernatural shit and fight Nazis. The party is searching an abandoned Nazi sub looking for what happened to it. They find evidence of one of the crew members doing witchcraft. Bada boom bada bang, they fight some ghosts and meet a crazy soldier who claims to see the future and had to turn around the sub to prevent the Nazis from marching into Russia. He had to kill the crew because they wouldn't believe him. He attempts to send ghosts after the party, but the party had a plan. They turned up the oxygen system and had left a firebomb on a timer, to burn the bodies and put the spirits to rest. The party flees, then they find a ship manifest that showed the sub had a rare magical totem that could allow you to speak with the dead. The empath, long story, asks the party if they should undo the bomb, requiring them to manually unarm it. There was a literal minute-long timer going, so the party said nah, which pissed off the empathy. So she gives a speech about her backstory. She's trying to uncover the secret her mom died protecting. The party tells her she can do whatever, but they're leaving. I ask if she's sure she wants to try it. Her base movement speed wasn't enough, so I gave her the option of rolling a D20, and if she rolls higher than a 13 she makes it. She rolls a 7 and I narrate the explosion. The party watches the sub explode and return back to the bunker. Immediately OOC she tells them to summon a crossroads demon, only for sure res method they know of, and make a deal to being her back. The party starts explaining that they don't want to give up their souls to a DM for her. She tells them that's fucked and asks if they could play something else then. The table is pretty against and they offer her new PC ideas. Very bad idea. She gets kind of accusatory and asks if they didn't like her original PC. I call the session there and try and get people to give it a day before we do anything too permanent. She's already out the door by the time I finished talking. She then texts me and explains how she would have ran the encounter. She tells me I could have just described her running and disarming the bomb rather than use mechanics. She says she understands that I'm new but it seems like I don't get D&D and maybe shouldn't be the DM. Y'all, this is unnecessary. I just wanted to play out something cool. Now I'm not a big kicker but she was really rude about my DMing. Like I'm being kind of sensitive because I didn't even want to DM because I was new but they all said it was okay. A couple of years back, COVID led to quite the gap in sessions. I was invited to create a character for a Pathfinder campaign described as urban medieval fantasy with a noir flavor. I did so, and looked forward to a campaign that sounded right up my alley. The first night we showed up I learned the regular and rather talented DM was letting his buddy take the reins on this one so he could play a character. Long story short-ish, it was a two-dimensional, claustrophobic, on-the-rails ride in which the DM seemed to be endlessly frustrated by our barbarian's dominance in melee that he never seemed to be able to adapt to through creative tactics. He targeted the only woman in the party in combat a lot and seemed to crit her every other hit, was very likely fudging saves vs my control-oriented sorcerer as a way to balance the predictable encounters, and despite the initial description of the adventure, we'd been fighting in an arena as a team of gladiators for half the campaign. The thematic problem seemed to be a rigidity and lack of improvisation skills that isn't great when you're in the DM chair. Yet another video game disguised as a tabletop RPG. I tried to focus on fun via RP, but it felt desperate even to me, and the only thing RP seemed to achieve was to risk the ire of a setting full of super-powered NPCs, but on a meta level it was more about risking an incredulous DM for going off script. The city we were campaigning in was a fascist theocracy, and boy did it feel like it. Oh, and speaking of fascism, he named his shopkeeper Gnome Hook-Nose Moneylender. Needless to say, I retired my seemingly pathetic illusion DC of 23 and bowed out. I am now running a sandbox 5th edition D&D campaign for a bunch of guys I used to work with that originated as an alternative to us running up tabs in bars, and it's been a blast. Backstory. Party is looking for this wandering magic lady they keep hearing stories about. They find her and she turns out to be a dragon. She's impressed with the party's tracking skill and offers to breath magic into their weapons if they prove their worthiness. The party goes and kill this hero who uses her blessing for evil. They then get their stuff enchanted. Story. Party is hunting this criminal. They find out he's hiding out in the slums. So the Blood Hunter starts interrogating homeless people in secret. He uses like Punisher level tactics. The next session a dragon paladin comes and challenges the Blood Hunter to a duel. The paladin serves the dragon and the blood has dishonored himself with his actions. The party learns what he did to the beggars and basically tell him he's on his own against the paladin. He starts arguing with the table but they basically just repeat the fact that he beat up hobos and threatened them with a magic sword. He gets frustrated and says he's not dueling the paladin. The party says you should duel the paladin or make a new character because they're against the whole evil aspect and they don't want to ruin their reputation by traveling with him. He says that he's not playing this sandbox to get railroaded into a fight and he doesn't have to be in the party. I tell him I'm not gonna just run side missions for him, which annoys him. He says that we're basically forcing him to fight or lose his PC and that's not fun for him. I ask him what he's gonna do and says hell, text it to me. He then left without a single word. About a year ago I met a guy online. We were both in open marriages and were exploring the potential of dating. He invited me to join the D&D game he was playing, 5e on ROLL 20. I was hesitant because I'd never played, but relented. However, he wouldn't let me pick my own character despite stating several times I wanted to be a druid. Ho's best offer was a drow rogue, so I relented. His players included his wife and some of her friends. Things went well and we all got along smashingly. I agreed to meet, briefly, and when I saw him in person, I felt a little catfished. He didn't look quite like his pictures and this was a problem for me, so I told him I wasn't interested in pursuing anything more than friendship. He said he understood and I stayed in the game. Cue him refusing to let me do stealth rolls and / or saying that they weren't high enough, think 20 plus due to proficiency. One time he even convinced the entire party to abandon me with a big bad where I ended up doing death rolls. At only point, I decided I wanted to take and befriend a beast. Well, his wife did too, so we rolled for it and I won. We ended up in a battle shortly after and his wife abandoned the battle and, in character, I told her to back off my pet and I threatened to kill the wife's character, very aligned to my character's behavior. Afterwards I got a message from him telling me I was making the experience uncomfortable and the other players felt I was ruining the experience. So I tone it down, I can be intense. But a couple sessions later he messaged me afterwards and said that there were rules I was going to have to follow regarding being on mic, just me, nobody else. I essentially had to ask permission, had to watch my tone and volume, even though we all were loud and would laugh a lot, etc. I eventually went to typing only, but the other players hated it because they had to relay everything I did back to the GM, but I was only allowed to talk if I followed his rules, so. And I wasn't the only person he had beef with, he threw 2 players out. One day, without warning, he just announced that the game was over and that was the end. I didn't play D&D for a while after that.